Konnichiwa, Samurai James here. In this video, I'm going to talk about what omote and ura are as applies to a sword. Omote and ura describes the two sides of a Japanese sword. The omote is the outside, the exterior, the front. The ura is the inside or the hidden side, the interior. And this applies to how the sword is actually worn. In the case of a katana, it's worn with the blade up. So in this case, if this were on my hip, this would be the omote side, and on the inside would be the ura side. Now if we were to turn the sword vertically on this, keeping the same orientation here, omote is to the left and ura is to the right. So does that always mean left or right when you're holding the sword? No. So when does that flip? Well, when the sword orientation flips. Take a look at the tachi. The tachi was worn with the blade down, which means the omote side is here and the ura side is here. Bringing it up vertically, just like we did with the katana, that means the omote and the ura are on opposite sides. Why does that matter? Well, part of this has to do with where the sword blade would be signed, if it was signed. Not all Japanese swords were signed, but when they were signed, they were generally signed on the side that was expected to be worn outwards. In the case of a tachi, it would be on this side, which would make it the omote side. In the case of a katana, it would be on this side, which would be the omote side. Now, as with many things, there are certainly exceptions to this rule. In some cases, a tachi, which was a longer and more curved blade, which was worn downwards, were later remounted into what they call katana koshira, or katana sword mounts. And what that means is the signature would still be here to the right of the blade, but if we take a look at the katana, when we hold it up, we establish that this would be the omote side, because this is the side that faces outward when it's worn up. And in that case, the signature would be on the wrong side. Now let's say we wanted to know which side is the omote and the ura if we just had a tsuka. Let's say there's no blade with it. How would we figure that out? Well, most modern swords are actually made with two samigawa panels. That's the ray skin that's inset here and here. Inset on the higher end swords. On the cheaper ones, they just lay it on top and then wrap over it. But really, once it's wrapped, you can't tell. So that's a detail that not a lot of people worry about. Anyway, I digress on that. The way that you can tell this on some historical examples, and I'm going to put a few pictures in here, is they were a full wrap of ray skin, and you can actually see a seam line down the middle of the handle for what would be the ura side. That was your private side that wasn't meant to face outward. Your clean panel, the clean side of the wrap, which had no seam line to it, that was the one that was facing out publicly. So you can actually tell if a handle was designed to be for a tachi style or a katana style, even without the blade. Now, are there other ways to tell which side would be the inner and outer facing if you didn't have a blade but had the whole set of fittings for it? Yes. In the case of a tachi, of course, it's worn down, but you'll notice that there are hangers here with a cord that wraps around the waist. In the case of a katana, that goes through your belt, and we have this piece here called the kurikata, is what would be put through the belt and facing outwards. So even without a blade, we know this is the outside because that's the side that has the kurikata in katana style mounts. Now that would also apply to a wakizashi, a tanto, a nagamaki, anything in a general katana style fitting, whereas the tachi is the specific case where there is no kurikata on it. It's simply, as you can see, the hangers here. That also applies to the World War II gunto style military swords, but I usually don't talk about those since they're past the Edo period and into the Meiji era and everything else, and it's just a period that I don't have much interest in. So I focus on everything from Edo and before, and in that case that means the tachi is the special sword. And one more thing to note on the omote side, for a katana that has an engraved scabbard, this would often only be on the outer facing side and not on the inner side. If this was engraved, it would spend most of its time facing inwards and it simply wouldn't be as presentable. So there we go, omote and ura, the public and private sides of swords. Hope you learned a little bit from it. If you have, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, this is Samurai James saying thanks for watching and sayonara.